So let's go back to when you were a kid again, living across from Bill Rowe's place. When you weren't working or in school, who'd you hang around with?
Uh,
What'd you do for fun?
well, that was the nice thing. Didn't really hang around too much because we didn't get away too often or
You're
too
always
much.
too busy
Too,
with farm.
yeah. Well, my dad was, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but we had like on Ron's place, he had a lot of hills there. Like we did have, well, and it's funny. Probably about 2 months ago, I walked through the back and I thought, wow, I used to toboggan down these hills, and I thought it was so big and massive. And now they're like,
Yeah.
they're not much of a hill anymore. I guess it's erosion or something happened. But yeah, we did a lot of, like my brother, we did a lot of tobogganing in the wintertime. Like we even come home from school in the winter,
Yeah.
tobogganing, skating on the pond if we could,
Yeah.
you know, if it wasn't too
So
late.
did you mostly hang around with your brothers? Like,
Yeah,
were the Halberts next door, or?
The Halberts were Larry, and he was older.
Yeah.
So I never
Hang
hung
out with
around
him?
with them.
No.
When I was a younger kid, when we first moved in, there was people who lived in one of the houses in Mr. Bill Road. It was out by the highway. It's the last house in New Robinson going south. There's people in there. Bob Graham lived there, and he had 3 children, I guess. And I hung around. Jason was the boy in there, and we went to public school together.
Okay.
And then that was about the only guy I ever hung around with.
Was it? Oh, okay.
And then they moved away and moved up to Barrie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Did you know the Houghtons?
Yeah, I knew them a little bit, but of course they were on the other side of the road.
Yeah,
so
now it's too far to go.
too far to go unless I biked.
Oh, okay.
I was a little shy too. I kind of stayed home.
Oh, okay.
A little more. I had a pony probably when I was 10 or 11. So you know, I did a bit with the pony and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, what about the blacksmith shop, Breeden? Did you ever have to do something there with him?
Well, I do remember a little bit about it when my dad used to go there and you know, get whatever he needed fixed up.
Yeah, but you never went yourself as a teenager, or
no, I
older?
didn't
No.
to the blacksmith shop. No.
No.
By the time I was a teenager, it was. I don't think it was going that much anymore.
Okay.
You know, it's when I remember being a kid in the younger years, and you know, like you had the big kind of garage door, and you walked in, and his forge or whatever would be in the middle, and it seemed so big.
Yeah.
And he had wheelbarrows up above that you know were for sale.
Okay.
And yeah, so I don't remember a whole lot you know, about it. What you know, just what.
What about the Copelands?
Copeland's? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any to do with them? Because didn't they drive? When one of them a drover? Did they ever take their cattle anywhere?
No, he didn't take the cattle. We used to get the Reynolds brothers out of Bonhead.
Okay.
But I do remember going in there. My dad would get baler twine. He sold some odd stuff.
Yeah.
And baler twine, I remember getting from there. And
Was he? This is the place where Gary Fraser's is now.
No, it's
the house across the street from
It's
that?
across the road. It's the one just on the other side of the bridge.
By the mailbox.
Yeah, by the mailbox.
That one there. Okay.
Right there, and he had that little shed out front.
Oh yeah, that's still there, right?
It's still there.
Yeah.
He would store, you know, whatever supplies he'd
And that's
bring
where
in,
we would go to buy it.
buy the
Okay.
And then I remember getting a small fertilizer spreader there once.
Okay.
And, I guess he rented them out or whatever, and whether he did deal with fertilizer or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about Vern Connell? Did you have any interactions with Vern or his kids?
Vern Connell, I remember him.
Okay.
Sam Reed had a. No, Sam Reed? No, sorry. Sam Reed sold a house to another guy that worked at Rose, and a big tree fell down. It was the little house behind that little house you have to the south.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, right by the road.
Right by the road.
Gary lived there for a short time with a fellow that was in there.
Yeah. Stanley Ross.
Stanley Ross.
Was in there. Anyways, there was a big maple tree fell down, and Stanley got us, and I was a teenager. Yeah, not much more than a teenager, to come down and cut it up a little bit.
Okay.
So I took the chainsaw down, and it was an old Homelite, big old Homelite, and started cutting it. And Vern Connell came down, and when I cut the tree, the saw was going in on an angle, and then I had to get on the other side. So when I started cutting the other way, it started going the other way. So he said, "Come here, young lad. We'll take her up here." And he went and took it up to his shop, and he sharpened the chain on it. Sharpened the chain up, and he was quite a character. He said, "Oh, you can't get those modern things to do it the way this does." And he did it all by hand.
Oh, okay.
But it was all done by hand. And back then, I was thinking, I don't think we ever, can't remember ever sharpening the chain on it. So that's probably why it was as bad as it was. But it was a big maple tree, I think it was.
Okay.
No, it's I didn't know too many. Never really, even being Newton Robinson, I never, you see the people come into church, and like I was a kid then too, and like I say, a little shy in that. You just went into church and kind of came out, and like I remember the Halberts and Chandlers, D. Chandler and Mary. I helped them all the time. He had a few horses at one time too. So.
Oh, where did he have his horses?
He had the horses across Highway 27 where Lloyd Coburn had the barn there.
Yeah.
Where I don't know who lives there now. The one at the north end of town on the west side. Yeah. And he had one or two, maybe 3 horses. I helped him a few weekends.
Oh, okay, so you got the general store, and then there's a little garage there.
Yeah.
That's where Colburn used to keep his car, I understand.
Okay.
Then you got the house, and then behind the house there was the barns,
barn,
and that's what you were talking about, those barns there.
Yeah, barn in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I helped Mr. Chandler, and then his son Marvin when he would come down, and he got me to a few weekends to clean them, help him clean the stable out and stuff like that. And Mr. Chandler go out and jog his horse. He had to cross the highway, of course, and then he had an entrance into the track there for Mr. Rose and jog the horse.
Oh, okay.
So he could do that.
Yeah. So his house was the one beside where I live, right?
Yeah. The little bungalow.
Little bungalow where Jim and June live now. Okay.
And he'd also that's where I got my hair cut later. Well, when we moved to Newton Robinson.
Oh, he cut hair.
Yeah, he cut hair
in the basement, or
in the basement. He had a little, the chair and all the stuff, and
So it was just word of mouth, or do you have a sign, or?
No, it was word of mouth, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember we went there. I don't know how many other people went, but I imagine he did do maybe some others and stuff like that. Okay. The other thing I remember about him is every election, we would go in there and vote. He would have the
polling station was
station was in his house in the basement. So,
really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At least for a municipal and maybe I can remember going quite a few. Like probably the first time I ever voted was in his house.
In his house in the basement. Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of neat. Always. So yeah.
And that would have been in what, the 70s then?
Yeah, probably the late 70s. I would have been 18 then,
yeah, okay.
so I would have been able to vote. Yeah, okay. 70s. And,
all right. Well,
so it's probably. Yeah, it probably was, because I remember my mom would help out on election day, so it was probably provincial.
Okay.
And maybe even federal.
Okay.
Yeah, he did them all. So yeah.
So you used to go to the Newton Robinson Church?
Yeah.
And the whole family would go?
Yeah. Well, because I had 4 brothers, what my mom would do is, because we didn't really want to go, so she'd take one at a time. So,
okay.
And it'd probably work out better that way, anyways. And so
you'd rotate through.
Yeah. And I know when I was younger, there was no Sunday school when I was, so I missed out on that a little bit, maybe, but.
Okay.
In my later years, and then up until my teen years, until I actually got into the horses then, because then I remember going to, on Saturdays or Sundays, like I say, we went to Orangeville a lot of times racing.
Right.